Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate you participating in this interview. For context, my name is Jana. I'm a psychology major at the University of Alberta, and as part of the Community Service Learning Program, we're working with the Regional Environmental Action Committee on the Plastics Remanufacturing Project. And we are incredibly fortunate to be speaking with you today, Ryan. For our audience, it's important to understand Ryan Young is the director of the Social Enterprise Fund, one of Canada's largest impact investment funds. Before taking on this role, Ryan also led several business schools right here in Alberta and managed one of Thailand's largest microfinance agencies. This diverse background gives you a unique perspective, and we are so excited to learn from your expertise in impact investment. So to begin, could you start by telling us about the Social Enterprise Fund and when did it start? What types of companies does it typically invest in? And maybe to help us all understand, what's a good way to think about the term social enterprise itself?
Great. Well, yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be here, Jana. And if I'm talking too much, just cut me off, okay? Yeah. So I've only been in the Social Enterprise Fund for 4 months. So I'm still learning lots about it, but it's been around since 2008. And it was started by the city of Edmonton and the Edmonton Community Foundation. And since then, the Social Enterprise Fund, we actually manage several different funds. So each fund has its own mandate and its own board and its own goals. But most of the funding, our largest fund is largely from the Edmonton Community Foundation. So when people, start endowments or they donate to the Edmonton Community Foundation, that money is invested and the investments from that are given out to charities the next year. So 10% of the community foundation's endowment, 10% of all the funds that they have, they invest through the social enterprise fund. So we're kind of like an investment arm of the community foundation. And what my mandate is to generate a return because the money that I generate ultimately goes back to the foundation and donated to charities. So we want to create money, but we also want to do good while we are investing. So I have to have a social or environmental goals as part of the investments that we do. So we've invested in many organizations in all different fields and spectrums all across Canada since 2008. A lot of them have been very successful. Some we've had some not so success in, but overall, it's we've seen lots of great things. We worked a lot of non. So our focus is primarily Edmonton, and then Alberta outside of that, and we do a few across Canada. But because most of our funding comes from the Edmonton Community Foundation, we really try to focus on this region first. And so we've invested in everything from small little businesses that have a social mandate to nonprofits who want to expand or do social housing, to working with First Nations groups. Yeah, so we work with really the whole spectrum. So we're not limited to nonprofit sector. We work with anyone who's trying to achieve social or environmental good alongside, as well as trying to make a profit at the same time. So yeah. So when it comes to social enterprise, that's a tricky thing because we're called the social enterprise fund. So everyone says, well, people have this mindset on what is social enterprise. Well, it's actually not even a legal term, really. Like you can't go and register a social enterprise like you can a nonprofit, or it's kind of a mindset, or yeah, it's a mindset that you can have as a nonprofit, or it's a mindset you can have as a for-profit. And really, the idea is that I want to do good and I want to achieve good, and I'm going to use business practices to do that. So, common things you might, at least in Edmonton here, we see like a very common thing is like thrift stores. So I live really close to a Salvation Army thrift store. They operate a business. The money from that goes back to, support the operations of the Salvation Army. My social enterprise fund, we operate like a business, and the profits from us go back to the foundation and are given and used for charitable purposes. So a social enterprise it's not a designation, it's not necessarily a nonprofit, it's just an idea, it's a way of using business to achieve something good.
Well, that's
Yeah,
really helpful. Thank you.
yeah,
It's fascinating to hear about the range of companies you support. And building on that, can you
yeah.
tell us about any changes you've seen reflected in the social enterprise sector since the social enterprise fund began, and what sectors do you see as most involved in driving these changes?
Okay, yeah. I think about half of our clients are nonprofits. And I see a lot of the innovation coming from there. And mainly it's because historically nonprofits have relied on grants from the government. You know, a lot of, especially groups like, affordable housing groups or the art sector. Well, there's more competition and there's fewer grants out there. So these nonprofit areas have to be more creative on how they're actually going to survive. How are they going to make money to keep operating and doing the things that they want to do? So a lot of those worlds, the nonprofit worlds, a lot of them are being more experimental and trying to be more innovative and trying to do some unique things like that. So we work with a lot of groups who are historically it's like, oh, nonprofits can't make money. But now that mindset's changed a lot. Like, it's like we have to make money in order to survive. So there are many nonprofits are taking a business mindset to how they're operating. One of my favorite clients that we've been very successful with over the years is Ballet Edmonton. It's a ballet company. Most people, and they rely on grants, a lot of grants. But because of the competition and because of, a decrease in the amount of grants out there, Ballet Edmonton's had to start thinking like a business and operating like a business and thinking how are they going to generate revenue. So they've borrowed from us in order to expand their business or expand their operations, and they've been very successful in doing that. So we have many organizations that are doing that. Companies, they start off thinking making money is not a problem, so they just continue like they can do that. But the nonprofit sector, I guess the mindset is changing where it's like, we can make money. Making money is okay. It's not bad to make money as long as we ultimately use it for good. So that's where we're seeing a lot of innovation happening in the nonprofit side, actually.
It sounds like there's been significant evolution in that field. Thinking about the scale of your work, roughly, how many businesses or entrepreneurs do you typically work with in a year? And could you maybe give us a couple of examples of the kinds of projects or businesses you've been involved with recently?
So right now we have about 54 clients in about 60 clients if you look at all of our funds. Um, but I am contacted daily by email, by phone call, even people walking into our office asking about how they can access our funds. So demand is huge. We can only work with a certain number of them. And we are take so we I guess historically we worked with really anyone who's come in the door. We do due diligence, we look at their financial plans, we look at their social goals, and we make decisions that way. Moving forward, we're gonna have a little bit more of a focus and say, you know what, rather than well, we will continue to help everyone, but if we can make an impact in certain areas, we're going to try to make an impact and focus our money and try to make impact on certain social goals or certain environmental goals moving forward. So it's going to change moving forward. But I'm looking at my list right now, and we work with you said you're from not from Edmonton, so I won't say where you are in case you don't want it to be said. But the Alberta Prairie Steam Tours. So if you go down to Central Alberta, you can do prairie tours and take what do they call it? The not the Winter Express, but you can get on a train in the winter time and have dinner and go out and oh, what's it called? Kind of like the Hogwarts Express type of idea. So it's an organization that basically bought an old rail line, and they use it part of the year to help farmers bring their crops in, but then other times they use the train for tours. So you can sign up for tours, and so they're bringing tourism to an area of Alberta that is historically doesn't really get a whole lot of tourism. It's usually Calgary and Edmonton or Banff and Jasper, but this is an area that they're really trying to expand. So they're doing some cool things like that. We work with some nonprofit housing providers and some groups that work with maybe more marginalized communities in the city. Um, Jasper Place Wellness Center is a strong partner of ours. We have multiple investments with them, and they do some really creative stuff. They uh, they have a mattress recycling center. So whenever you have a mattress that you don't want to use anymore, they actually take the parts. They take it all apart. So like the steel and the metal is reused, the fabric is reused and recycled. So they basically and they sell those parts, the steel and the fabric to different companies who reuse it for other products. And they hire in like I was there about a month and a half ago, and they hire individuals who are harder to employ. So these individuals are getting employment and the organization is making money at the same time. We work with lots of feeder companies who want to expand or renovate their feeders. I work with small businesses. that, some small consulting companies. We work with some small bookstores. We work with a young individual, I think he's in his early 20s, mid 20s, and he is a musician and he now has started a music company, music lesson company. So he, passionate about the arts and passionate about music. So he started up his own company and borrowed a small amount from us in order to purchase the materials that he needed in order to start that company. So, yeah, we have some small little groups and startups all the way to very large nonprofit or organizations that might not necessarily get financing from a bank, so they come to us.
Wow, those are interesting and quite spectacular examples. Thank you very much. Really
Yeah,
brings
and
it to
fun.
life. We're particularly interested in opportunities for young people and students. Could you tell us more about the specific SEF's investments, specifically in youth? And are there programs focused on students' business or internships, for example?
We don't have specific programming for students, but we do work with the startup community. So like, for example, tonight I'm going to one of the post-secondaries in Edmonton and listening to their pitch competitions. So their students are going to be pitching their business ideas, and I'll be looking and listening. And if there's some that fit my criteria, like they're trying to make money but also have a social or environmental impact, I might follow up conversations with them. So it's not specifically for students, but we definitely are involved with the post-secondary world here in at least in Edmonton. Um, as a former educator myself, I'm quite passionate about giving students opportunities. So we are in the process of trying to recruit a student to come work with us this summer. To a student who is interested in finance, but also has some social, it wants to do good in finance as well too. So we want to bring an individual on to come and do some of our due diligence. So we have clients coming in, we have people coming in the door daily. So this student might be the first person who will, talk to them and start learning about their business idea and start doing some initial analysis for us and give them that experience to try to balance the financial goals and the social goals at the same time. And long term, my ideal, and I'm not committing to this right now because my board has, and the board of one of the funds has to agree to it, but I'd love to create a fund that's very focused for student startups. The challenge for me, though, is that this fund is an investment. These are investments, and when you're talking in the startup community or early stage businesses, there's a lot of risk. So I can only invest a certain amount in the high risk, in companies or organizations because I have to ensure that I'm getting a return that I can give back to my shareholders, which is the foundation.
That's great to hear about the focus on youth. And switching gears slightly
Mhm.
to consider the future of business. In your experience, what kind of business model do you think best applies to emerging technologies? Or does the business model even really matter when you're dealing with truly new technologies?
But we don't get a whole lot of emerging techno. Actually, let me stop. We do have some investments in emerging technologies. Usually they're done in partnerships with other investment funds as well too. So in Alberta, there is a lot of money available for tech startups. So the competition is quite like anyone who's in that world, they will have multiple funds and multiple investors lining up to invest in them. So because of that, we don't do a whole lot. We do some, but we do them in partnerships with other groups that are also involved. So if someone's looking for, let's say an example, $100,000, we might say, okay, we will invest 50,000 if this other tech startup venture fund also invests $50,000 as well too. So I think it's partnerships and collaborations from investors what makes it appealing for me because then we're all hedging our bets and we're all I guess the organization, the tech company also has multiple people to reach out to and multiple supporters and champions. So it makes their likelihood of them succeeding better. And as far as from my point of view, what I see as innovative is we have a couple nonprofits who are doing collaborations with for-profits, which in the past it was always like there's the nonprofit world and there's the for-profit world, and that's kind of disappearing. So you partner with people that have strengths in areas that you might need, and so it's not tech related, but I'll give you a really simple example. We have an organization that works with. a marginalized community. It doesn't matter what they are. Just they want us how they and this marginalized community needs housing. Well, usually nonprofits are not experts in building big complexes, housing complexes. So maybe they can partner with a for-profit developer, and we will help the nonprofit buy an equity stake in the for-profit development so that they have access and they don't have to build the place, they don't have to manage the place, but they have access and they can have their clients live in these for-profit developments as well too. So it's finding collaborations and ways on how you can leverage what you do best and find people who do things that you can't do well and then make collaborations that way. So from the business point of view, collaboration is good. And then from the investor's point of view, having multiple collaborators is what I see as the most successful.
Thank you for that. Finally, bringing it back to our plastic remanufacturing project. As I mentioned, we're working in three different northern Alberta communities and partnering with Community Futures to support local business planning.
Mhm.
Considering our project, how do you visualize the Social Enterprise Fund potentially helping a new plastics remanufacture facility, specifically in northern Alberta?
Yeah, so I give a recommendation first. So we'd be open to looking at at the plans and possibly becoming an investor if that was needed. My recommendation to the group is really focus on the business plan. If it has to have a strong business plan to succeed, and that's what I see a lot. Is a lot of times people say, "Well, we're going to do this good stuff. We're going to try to achieve this good outcome." That's great, but if you don't have a strong business plan to make that happen, odds are you're not going to be able to achieve that good that you're trying to do. So come up with a really strong and really think about all the risks, think about all the issues that you might face, and then try to make sure that your business plan addresses all of that. And if it goes well and you make money, well, then you're going to be able to do good along the way. So that's kind of my recommendation is start with a strong business plan. Keep in goal what you're trying to achieve. If with recycling, yeah, so you think about what you're trying to achieve through that, but start with a strong business plan first, and then ensure that you have the strong I'm assuming the environmental metrics that you're trying to do as well. So business plan, add on the strong metrics that you're trying to do as far as environmental or social, and then bring that to funders like myself or community features or other groups and pitch your plan to us, and we're happy to entertain it. I usually don't get involved in the business plan development, though. That's something like we have people who are willing to volunteer and help work with organizations to help get their business plan up to a strong place. But for me, myself, we analyze the plan and then we decide if we're going to invest or not. So that's kind of where we set our boundary is, yeah, come to us with a plan and we will evaluate it, but we don't help you develop it.
So, very helpful advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing your expertise and insights with us today. This has been very valuable for our project. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks, Jenna. Happy to help and good luck with your project.